Hey, it's Justin here. In this video, we're going to talk about equipment financing. So when we look at equipment financing, this is a common product that most companies are familiar with. And one thing with equipment financing is there's two options. You can finance the equipment or lease the equipment. Now, depending on that equipment, we might only have one of the two options available. But knowing how to use these products is critical. So again, back to the credit, cash flow, and collateral lending that we've been talking about this whole time. When it comes to equipment finance, leases can be used for can be more beneficial for tax purposes than financing. But as the equipment gets more specialized, it might only be financing options that are available for you. Like, for example, if you go and you buy a brand new tractor trailer from the dealership, they may have an in-house financing program for you. But lots of times those financing programs that are in-house might have better interest rates, but worse terms than what you can get from a third party. So lots of times the financing, the way it works is the lower the term, the lower the rates, the stricter the terms. And you want to try and weigh those the best you can. As your credit goes down and your cash flow goes down, the amount of options available to the business go down. Now, with equipment financing, it's very common to have this personally guaranteed by the owner of the business. So personal finances do matter. There are some ways to get around that. If, say, the company is publicly traded, they might not look for personal guarantees. Or if there's something like 100 shareholders because their business is doing capital rounds, then you can possibly look to get the financing without the personal guarantees. But most lenders are going to want that personal guarantee. And when you get into other types of, say, banking institutions, they may want some financial covenants and things like that as you get your equipment financed. So the same rules apply as sale leasebacks. The more specialized the equipment, the harder it can be to get financed. They may want higher percentages down. The terms may be a bit higher. So those are some common things to be aware of. Now, with leasing, if you have good credit, cash flow, and collateral, then there is a such thing as zero money down. They just want the first and last month payment on the piece of equipment down. And these loans can be structured out to, or these leases can be structured out to as much as 60 months. So they can be highly favorable compared to some other types of financing. And structuring it as a loan, this usually happens when your equipment gets more specialized. So because with a lease, really the lender owns it and you're leasing it from them. So when you go into the financing for equipment, you need to be aware of what you're financing. So if this is something like tanks and vessels for, say, oil wells, then you'll want to probably look at financing options. And each piece of equipment might have different requirements. And as you get into the used market, then again, there's different requirements for the pieces of equipment. So some lenders might say if you're looking at tanks and vessels, they want them to be no more than 5 years old. Some lenders won't look at certain types of equipment whereas others will. So you want to be able to make sure you get the right lenders you're working with right out of the gate. And I'm going to show you some of the best ways to do that, because going around and shopping for financing is something nobody really wants to spend a whole bunch of time doing when you got a business to run. So, and you don't want to take the first deal that comes your way. You want to be able to get the best deal right out of the gates. Now, the other thing to be aware of is if you decide to go through a brokerage for equipment financing, because there are a whole bunch of different lenders, that there are brokerage fees associated with that, and that usually gets tacked on to the loan. So that's common practice. It's not necessarily a bad thing if they can still get you the competitive rates. So yeah, that really sums up equipment financing. We'll get more into the specific details of how these types of products work and underwriting, everything like that in the future lesson. But for now, stay tuned for the next one.